Bark beetle, impact, mitigation, and changing attitudes. Bark beetles are an important member of the ecology of a healthy forest. However, with warmer winter temperatures and long-term drought caused by climate change, pine trees across the western United States have become increasingly vulnerable to infestation. Vast swaths of forest have been affected by bark beetle infestations worldwide. Salvage of spruce and pine beetle kill has the potential to create revenue to affected states. However, the ecological and economic impacts of such massive die-off will be felt in western states for many years to come. While the massive bark beetle epidemic infecting pine forests continues to spread across the western states, altering ecosystems and commerce, states like Colorado and Wyoming are seeking to improve quarantine, removal, and reforestation techniques. It's hard to believe that this tiny insect can have such devastating impacts on the nation's forests. But bark beetle infestations have spread across the United States at an unprecedented rate. Reforestation techniques have been used in an attempt to mitigate these effects. The economic impact of bark beetles are far-reaching, and they affect many different markets, including the timber industry, tourism, and construction. While lumber producers continue to absorb losses related to bark beetle infestation, the cost of salvage lumber continues to fall. This decline in cost may spur construction in the short term, but as mature pine and spruce stands in the U.S. dwindle, builders will likely face rising costs and will become increasingly dependent on foreign timber producers. Additional costs incurred by bark beetle infestation include lost tourism revenue, government and private bark beetle mitigation and suppression costs, and costs associated with wildfire prevention and suppression. Salvage of standing dead could revitalize lumber markets in areas that were negatively affected by the collapse of the housing market. Losses absorbed by timber producers that are attributed to the southwest pine beetle average $43 million annually. Recent studies indicate that despite rapid deforestation due to bark beetle infestation, infected forests are surprisingly rich in biodiversity. While old-growth forests are host to a plethora of wildlife, the snag forest created in the exposed understory is an extremely important process in forest regeneration. Salvage attempts can ultimately disturb this natural process of regeneration and incur further silviculture cost. According to the United States Forest Service, from 1996 till 2010, the United States lost nearly 41.7 million acres of forest to bark beetle infestation. Nearly 16% of the loss was recorded in Colorado, and close to half of that loss was attributed to the mountain pine beetle. Some areas report up to 90% mortality rate in infested areas. Public opinion and why it matters. The natural reaction to such vast devastation in national forests is to attempt to suppress further infestation though in the long term, this attempt may be counterproductive. While salvage attempts to remove profitable lumber from an already frail ecosystem under the assumption that removal will help stop the beetle from spreading, the opposite has proven true. Logging attempts harm the naturally recovering ecosystem, causing further harm to recovering understory, resulting in the need for further human intervention. Excessive human intervention could lead to overcrowded forests susceptible to similar outbreaks in the future. What can we do? Increasing investments into silviculture, limiting damaging salvage operations to encourage natural reforestation, reduce our own carbon footprints, and invest into forestry education and research. According to the Colorado State Forest Service, over the past 15 years, more than $27 million in USDA Forest Service grants have leveraged non-federal funds to mitigate wildfire risk, protect people and property, and add to the stewardship of Colorado's forests. Ultimately, the overall health of forests afflicted with bark beetles depends on a number of factors, including drought, climate change, extent of salvage efforts, and reforestation techniques. To what extent these factors will affect forests across the Southwest depends largely on public opinion and discretionary spending. Thank you.